I'm like very stressed out right now. It's very sad. It's a sad time in the household. Um, I was gonna wait to do the live until both games were over, but I couldn't wait because I was just that stressed out. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do the live now. And then I was like, I don't feel like putting on fucking makeup, man. Like, I'm going to bed after the next game. And then I was like, okay, I think I think I have enough left in me to put on some red lipstick. So that's what I did. Um, as a way of cheering myself up, I guess, because when the household doesn't feel happy, I don't feel happy. And right now, Bob's not happy. His team lost. And therefore, if his team lost, then it means that my team lost. And I think the other game is probably going on right now, but I'm going to wait to review that one until tomorrow. And I don't think anyone's on right now because everyone's probably watching the next game. I wanted to riff about this game with somebody. I think that people are supposed to get, if they're, I think you have to sign up maybe for notifications to get notified that I'm going live. And not that anyone like fucking depends on, you know, my live streams per se for commentary on the game. I'm very much a novice when it comes to football. But I will say, I think my points of the overall game, I don't feel like, I know that Josh Allen did a couple mistakes, but I don't think that their quote unquote failure this year was due to him necessarily. I think that it just came down to he couldn't carry the team. And how can you put all that on, you know, one or two people? And, I feel like he did his job and he did his job well. There were a couple key mistakes, nobody was perfect in this game. Nobody was perfect in this game. And they even said that Cook's been fumbling, after he runs or whatever. And it's so disheartening when there's a fumble or an interception. It's just gut wrenching and it stresses me out. It's exciting when the other team, fumbles or throws. Yes. Yeah, Aaron would appreciate. Thanks for hopping on, Aaron. Aaron, do you watch football? I'm just reviewing kind of like the Bills game that just happened, and it resulted in a loss in overtime. And it was a nail biter the entire game. And, the Broncos had the ball first in overtime. They didn't score. And so we're all like, yes, yes, we can do this. Of course, we can at least get, a field goal. And then that doesn't happen. And then they get I think what ended up happening was one of the dudes, only on the Super Bowl. That's okay. Yeah, Bad Bunny this year. I know that the Gen Xers are I was like, I don't think that many people know about Bad Bunny um beyond like the 35 and down, or at least 40. I was like, I don't know of anyone like, my parents don't know who fucking Bad Bunny is. I honestly don't know that any Bad Bunny songs myself. So I think I'm gonna have to try. Um, but I know that he's like a big star and everything. So yeah, I mean, I always look forward to the halftime shows no matter what. I think Lady Gaga was probably my favorite of all time. Um, yeah, that one's hard to beat. She's hard to beat. I feel like I relearn the rules every year. I know. I know Bob's like my mom's boyfriend is shouting the penalties the entire time, and I'm trying to ask for specifics and I try to retain them. And then yeah, next year comes along and it's like, fuck, I forget like what constitutes holding, and like grabbing the jersey. And I know that you can grab the dreadlocks and it doesn't count as holding. I know that. I had to learn like what overtime rules even were because I remembered overtime as the first team to score. But Bob filled me in that they changed the rules a few years ago that it's not the first team that scores unless it's a touchdown or something. No, no, it doesn't even matter. But they have to give the other team a chance. I don't know. I don't, I'm getting confused as I'm talking about it. Oh, the JLo and Shakira one. I absolutely despised that they got, I'm sure they're used to the online hate and stuff like that, but they look fucking amazing and they're just wonderful, divas. And to I think people are just going to hate on anyone who plays in the halftime show. I was like, watching that, I was like, how could you have anything to hate on with these ladies? But people will find something to hate on. You could be a 10 and people will find something because that's what they do. That's what they do. Yeah, of course, very talented. They're not, those ladies are the just epitome of diva. And to put two divas with each other just made it all the more memorable. Like Lady Gaga was a solo act, but something about having Shakira and J Lo together. I always love seeing two females on stage at the same time, like at the Taylor Swift concerts when she would bring up Sabrina Carpenter or Gracie Abrams. There's just something really cool about females supporting other females, and I like to see that whenever it happens. And it's an explosion of female empowerment, whatever whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I'm totally in mourning about the game. Oh, every touchdown was exciting, every field goal was exciting. But there were mistakes along the way, fumbles and interceptions and penalties, especially at the very end. I don't understand why people still get unsportsmanlike conduct. Like, can't people control their fucking emotions? But you are dealing with a group of men that have the testosterone flowing from all of, the physicality and the weight training I'm sure they do. And, they're playing against other guys. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of like testosterone flowing in the NFL. And with that, you get men that are, they have their emotional, you know, side is not very regulated. I feel like Josh Allen is very emotionally regulated, but he's a true class act professional. If nothing else, like I just wanted to see like Josh Allen come away with more games under his belt, especially since Mahomes was already out of and that had been like their major block to getting to the Super Bowl is the Chiefs and Mahomes. And now that Mahomes was out, I was like, oh, this might be the year. And it wasn't. I think that's why I don't watch football too much testosterone. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the fact that they're celebrating like Hispanic culture and not just from one country, but different, totally different countries. Um, ugh, yeah, and testosterone can be exciting, but with that excitement comes the other side of testosterone, which is like, I want to say like maybe a little bit scary, intimidating, over like power and not in a good like power way. I'm not sure. I am a feminine person and even though, I do like the hiking and like I'm a sportsy gal myself, but I consider myself feminine. So you put someone that's ultra masculine in front of me, I don't know. I don't really have any friends that are ultra masculine. I don't have any. Most of the guy friends that I have are not entrenched in a sport or do anything like super masculine themselves. And even a lot of the guys that I run into on the trails, I'm probably the more sportsy one. Um, so I just don't like surround myself with those like types of dudes. Bob's kind of an anomaly, my mom's boyfriend, because he has a really soft side to him, and he's not, I wouldn't call him an ultra masculine male or anything. But he's really gung ho for his, Bills. And understandably, I think from what I know about the Bills, if you're from Buffalo, like you're just, you grow up in that environment, it's ingrained in you and it gives you something to root for. And I think that it's kind of cool to root for something. And I used to be one of those people like, I can't imagine being in front of a TV for, 5 hours on a Sunday. And I was like, you know what? I am that person that could probably, I'm doing squats in between like the commercials, but I can totally, now I'm entrenched in it and it is fun. It's fun to root for something, even if it's these group of guys. And a lot of them have like fun backstories. And so you always root for the ones that have like underdog backstories, like they were an orphan or, like the Bucks, like watching, and this is a good one to watch on Netflix, but Raise the Flags. And they've just always been like a total underdog team. And a lot of their players have these, you know, backstories and the coaches, and, you can't help but whatever they're doing, whether it's football or life in general, you can't help but root for the person that's an underdog. And I always see it on here. Um, I don't root for the people that have been handed things. I root for the underdogs, and I always will. And I think most people do. Okay, let me scroll up. Make sure I don't miss anything. I get to talking and then I miss stuff. Well, this makes me feel a little bit better. Okay, Doug's in the house. Okay, I missed the comment. I'm glad I scrolled up. Yeah, OT rules changed a while back. Bob was saying that it's um the Josh Allen rule, or I don't know if that's just something that he coined it, but he said that when they were up against the Chiefs, that they scored within like the first play or something, and then the other, obviously the Bills didn't have a chance, and so that's why they changed it, is because they thought that the other team should have a chance. So I don't know if that's just Bob making up shit. He is catatonic, you guys. Like the last time I left him, he was, oh, I left Cherry Blossoms Mojave. Yeah, he was catatonic on the couch. It looked like he was about to cry. He looked very sad, and that made me really sad. And me and my mom are trying to like cheer him up, like, oh, they're gonna come back next year. They're gonna want it even more, and they know what they need to work on. It wasn't Josh's fault, and I think that that's important to say that it wasn't Josh's fault because he's very much attached to Josh Allen. So you have to tell him that it wasn't his fault. And personally, I don't think it was, unless anyone else on here thinks that it was his fault. See what Doug thinks. That's basically it. The team that got the ball first had a huge advantage, so they changed it. Okay. Doug, do you think that it was Josh Allen's fault? Like, whose fault is it if one were to pin the fault? Okay. Josh played good. The turnovers and penalties killed them. Okay. That was kind of my assessment. Um, every it's hard because I think in the playoffs especially, um, and this I saw a lot more in the playoffs than I did the regular season, when whether they're running or they caught it or whatever, like the other team is like trying to like hammer the ball out of like whoever like has the ball's hands, and you have to really like hold on to that shit. So it was very gut wrenching anytime the ball was like bounced out of somebody else's hands. But then I know the Bills were also, you know, it's every man for themselves out there. Like both teams can do it. I just saw, more of it happen in the off season or the playoffs, and I was like, man, I picture myself out there, and I was like, it'd be really hard to hold on to the ball so tight, even after making some of these like throws that, you know, weren't the best. So you're just like basically touching it and trying to hold on to it. And then somebody comes along and like bounces it out of your hands. It's difficult to hold on to the ball in this game. And especially in some of like the what water game to one of the games it was like raining really hard. Um and I was like, how are these people even holding on to the ball? And some of these cold games, I was like, I knew my little finger. I was telling Doug earlier about my Raynaud's. I was like, my fingers get cold just, obviously it snowed today here, but even when it's not snowing, like anytime in the winter, all I have to do is go like from the car to the house, and my fingers are literally getting numb, and I have to press them together, blah, 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 run it under hot water. It takes like at least 10-15 minutes for my fingertips to not be numb anymore. I was like, I don't know how these people are catching obviously they have bigger paws than me. I have long fingers, but I'm sure, they have much bigger hands than what I do. You're just in awe of what these people are able to do. Could you imagine, like, do they have like a female football league? I uploaded this video of me and my mom playing basketball, and I'm like, oh man. That was that elicited a lot of belly laughs out of me, because I've never been a basketball player, and for some, I don't know if do you guys remember, um, back in elementary school, I don't know if they did away with it in middle school, but like the presidential fitness and the whatever other stuff it was, like national fitness, like, and they gave you like a badge or whatever, like a yeah, thing to and a certificate. Do you guys remember that? Yeah, there's the WFA. That basket still watched the basketball video. I scared my mom, and she accused me of having pent up aggression, and that was like my time to take it out on her. And I was like, no, actually, I just it's not even about like an inner aggression for me at all. It's just about winning, and I like to win. If I can, you put me in a true competitive situation, and I only put myself in competitive situations in the runs that I do. Otherwise, I don't want to compete against other people. I want us all to do good. Um, but if you put me in a run, and I've never, like, aside from me playing soccer, um, I think the last year I played soccer was ninth grade. And it's just because I could run. It's not that I did anything fancy with the soccer ball. I just could run. So I played halfback, and I think they're calling it something else nowadays. But I just could run. So I haven't been on like too many like team sports in my, adult years. So I always wondered like how I like the idea of joining like an adult softball league or something like that, even though I hated softball when I was in elementary school, but I think it was because I was forced. And I think if I choose something out of my own accord, I feel like it could be a fun thing, low pressure. I feel like my parents really pressured me with the softball and the soccer because they cheered. Like, my dad was a fucking crazy person on the sidelines. And as a kid, you felt like you couldn't disappoint, because they were rooting for you so bad and had these high expectations. And so I felt like I had to perform like a fucking puppet. And I'm sure part of that's fucked with me. They wanted this perfect specimen of a person. And I had a fall from grace, from life. And, now I'm just like, I'm okay with me. Whether you guys are okay with me, that's your problem, but I'm okay with me. That's where I'm at right now. Let's see. Yeah, the basketball video. How do you know you have a soul? Oh, that's a very esoteric question. We're talking about fun things. Let's see. Okay. Da 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 da. The basketball video. Doug, what if you could play a team sport in your adult years, like what would you play now? What would you sign up for? If he's still on. He might have exited. I don't even know how to tell who's in the damn room, to be honest. Do I click this like person arrow up here? Or does that just give top viewers? I don't know. Yeah, I'm a little confused. What button? Are there people in here that know more about TikTok than I do? How can I even tell? Okay, Doug's still in the room. Doug, do you know? I'm going to have to ask my slave chat after this. How do I tell who's in the room with me? Because this is fucking me up. Good question. Probably baseball. Do they have adult baseball leagues? I guess they would just have guys on there, don't I don't know. So my niece is apparently on a baseball team, and I was like, huh, I wonder why they didn't put her in softball. I just thought that's what you did with girls. You just put them in softball. I don't know why. Um, if there's like if that's easier or something, and they were trying to make it easier on like girls. Um, but yeah, she's on the baseball team, and I thought, as an activity, maybe I can, yeah. Well, I don't know if they have indoor batting cages. I was like, oh, maybe I can take myself to like a batting cage as like an activity. But I don't know if they're all outside here, and my hands get too cold to even attempt that. But I just thought that that would be like a fun activity to do is like go to a batting cage because I would just like to see how I am now that I've been removed from that for so long. Like if maybe a little bit's been retained, or if you've always been like an athletic person, that you should just, you know, be able to pick it up. And I think, most things I'm able to pick up, but there's some that I can't. Like I said, surfing's one of them. Surfing and God, what's the other one? I can't think of the other one offhand, but surfing, was always my nemesis. And I gave up on that one. Surfing is hard. Doug, have you tried to surf? I'm sure you've tried to surf, like being a Florida boy. I think you moved to Florida actually probably this around the same time that I did. So, we're both not native Floridians, but we've certainly had enough time in Florida where we were probably introduced to surfing along the way. I'm curious though. They do, but not as common as other sports like basketball or golf. I always felt like too, if I were to go back in time, um, investing in sustainable sports that you can do through a lifetime. Not that you can't do softball through the lifetime, not that you can't do soccer through the lifetime, but coming from a sports injury perspective. And I always thought running would be like a cool lifelong thing you can do. And certainly people do it over a lifetime, but there are also a lot of injuries along the way. And if you're lucky and you do the things that you're supposed to, you can do it for a lifetime. But I always thought like country club sports like tennis or golf, and everyone's doing the pickleball. I found pickleball a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but I like the idea of running around a little bit more. And I felt like pickleball was just kind of cheating. I don't know if anyone else feels like that. However, I'm loving the pickleball outfits, and I would definitely be super cute on a pickleball court. And I feel like, I don't know what the attire, how the difference between the pickleball attire and the tennis attire. But I just envision like pickleball is so trendy right now. I just envision people a little bit trendier if they're doing pickleball. And on the tennis side, you're a little bit more like classic country club looking chic, minimalist. Whereas pickleball, you can be a little bit more fun and whimsy. But fuck it, I'll be whimsy at anything. I don't care. They give me an opportunity to dress up. I'm coming whimsy. Let's see. Yeah, so Doug, answer if you're still in here, tell me about your surfing experience while I talk about mine. Chip actually was the first person to introduce me to surfing. And when I lived in, I don't think it was when I was living in Daytona. I think it was when I was still commuting from Tampa and I was going to USF. And he took me out a few times. I don't even know how old he was then, but I think that's when he really started to like not be active anymore, is like the couple years like after that. And he was very patient with me. I'll give him that. Um, the waves are not crazy in Daytona. There's a little bit of a better surf in New Smyrna. And I like to watch people surf because it's just fun. Just like the windsurfing, like it's always kind of like there's good people watching. It depends what kind of people watching you want to do, but on the east coast of Florida, you get more of like the surfer, the windsurfers. Just you can do more in the water in that respect. And on the other side, I just remember drinking. Or when they saw like Hulk Hogan's bar on the beach or whatever. There are some good times, or one begins with like an SH. I'm not sure, but then you'd get our drinks and then we'd fucking wade in the water. And those are the days where like we would bring like a football along. Um, so those are mostly the beach days that I remember, or like when I went out with the guy that had a boat, there was a lot of like boat days like ingrained in my memory. I don't think we knew a person with a boat prior to my one ex. I don't think so. It's always nice to have a friend with a boat. Certainly, I don't think that I will ever own a boat. I'm probably not going to own anything, to be honest, let alone a boat. I'm not doing a bunch of boat maintenance. I watched that man obsess about boat maintenance, and it was very irritating. I don't think nowadays I would probably be as irritated. I don't even know why I was irritated. I think I felt like it was over the top. And I feel like he thought he was just taking care of his things. And I think he saw me as a person that just doesn't take care of shit. And that's why we didn't get along. That's why we ultimately ended up breaking up, is because I was such a 180 from what he was, even though we had some commonality. It's funny how these things happen. Like what was endearing at first became annoying, and it didn't take that long. He had even said to me once, he's like, "Oh, I thought I was getting someone that was more stable because I was a nurse." Um, and I think the girl he had dated before me, like, didn't have any, like, quote unquote education, was working at the gas station, came from a not nice, like, family. And I was like, well, just because my mom has properties doesn't mean that I'm benefiting from that in any way. I'm not getting any handouts of any kind. And he was getting handouts. And it was a very large, it was disproportionate, what one was coming to the table with and what the other was coming to the table with. And I always talk about like my intangible assets, and it depends how much a person values those intangible assets. And I don't think he valued my intangible assets. Or I think that in his eyes, if I wasn't coming to the table with just more, that I should have been cleaning and cooking more. But I'm just not naturally like that person. Like I'll probably do a lot of the bare minimum in those areas. Whereas he thought that I should probably be doing the majority of those things. And I didn't think so. And the entirety of when I was with him, I don't want to rehash that whole thing, but there was definitely a disparity between us. And uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what got me on that tangent. I don't know how I get started on some of these tangents on here. But as I'm talking, it sometimes to hear me thinks to hear myself say things out loud, I come to these, I call them micro epiphanies. And the micro epiphanies are always so beautiful. Not much surfing on the Gulf Coast of Florida. I don't, yeah, I can't recall anyone, unless you're making, the only time do people wakeboard in the ocean? Um, I only remember doing it on lakes, and the one dude was very particular on what lake, would suffice. Um, I don't remember other than and paddleboarding even kind of sucks on the fucking ocean. Depending on where you're at, intercoastals and stuff like that. But I took for Vivian's birthday one year, I took her out paddleboarding and we did this like Groupon experience, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, this is winding me. Because you don't realize like the tide and you're paddling out and you're doing that. I was like, oh, this is fun. And then you have to come back against the tide. I was like, oh my God. And that happened to me once with kayaking. Never underestimate the tide. And I was just getting fucking winded. I thought I was paddling for my fucking life out there. And I know where this is at, Doug, but it was we were kayaking to DeSoto Island or something. It's like a popular kayaking track, but it's not easy by any means. And like I said, the tide was not in my favor that day. Um, but yeah, to close that up, Scott basically thought I was a useless human being. And on that note, he was talked about in my book, and he'll be talked about again in my next book, Yellow Brick Road. And I'm gonna light these motherfuckers on fire, you know, and they know it. And I know they know it. And if they wanted to stay out of my book and stay out of my narrative, then they could have been a little bit nicer along the way. But you know what? And I even told one dude, I was like, oh, you're ending up in my book. And this was years ago because I always knew that I would write this book. And he's like, great, can't wait to read it. You can't wait to read it. So you really just don't give a fuck on how you're treating me or handling this because you would rather be, um, what do they call those? Not the enemy of the book, like the bad guy. You would rather be the bad guy and live in infamy than to treat a person halfway decent and manage to stay out of the book. Well, regardless, I think I would have put everyone in the fucking book. Nobody escapes. Nobody's escaping this book. Um, but I try to be fair, balanced, accurate, yet entertaining at the same time. Yeah, it's a workout. Yeah, it fucking is. Let's see. Okay, so let me close this out with a rant. I think I'm over the football loss. I needed to come out of that because I was very stressed out, and I feel a little bit less stressed right now. Um, but one thing that was really bothering me today, and I'll keep this short, was the notion of people giving me advice unsolicited. I've made it known several times to my friends and family. I don't want advice unless I specifically ask for it. And when I voiced that before to my friends, they were like, well, when you tell us stuff, we feel compelled to advise and that they can't help it. And after I heard that, I was like, okay, I get it. So basically, I can't talk to you about shit, or else I'm going to be like fed a bunch of, you know, empty advice on quote unquote what they would do, but they aren't me and they aren't actually offering to help me in any way or offer any sort of tangible or intangible real support. They just want to impose their views on me because egocentrically they think that their view is correct. Whatever my view is, it's wrong. And they're trying to persuade me into their view of thinking because whatever that view is correct. And I don't feel like that way of thinking is correct. I feel like there's room for a lot of different perspectives and different views. And I think it's in due diligence that we listen to those around us, because you just never know what you're going to learn. And I try to listen to whatever's going on in the group chat for that reason. And I am usually a very good sport about it. However, I'm getting a little bit tired of it. And especially since I came back from my hiking trip, um, I've been less active in the group chat. And I think part of me, if anyone is in a group chat with their friends or family, whatever, I think part of my participation in there is because I wanted a group of people to share my successes and my downs with, and just people to shoot the shit with. Um, but anytime it seemed like I would voice a success, I wasn't getting a congratulations, or uh, and anytime I would voice it down, I would be getting advice. And so it's like, okay, I'm not really sure how this group chat is really functioning. Is it just a place for me to talk about the tabloids? I'm not sure, and I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think I have more of a clear idea on how I should handle it, like best for me. And I feel like I should just keep it very light in there and try to not be as um, participatory in it, because most of the time it doesn't leave me walking away with warm fuzzies. And I kind of want to, my energy, I want to invest in things that bring me warm fuzzies. And I don't get that many warm fuzzies from the chat. And it kind of hurts like when somebody else voices a success that is on par with the rest of the group chat's version of what success is, and they're getting the congratulations. I've had, I would say 85% of my friends have not even voiced a congratulations about my book publishing. And I was like, oh my God, if one of my friends published a book, first of all, I would have attended one of the live streams. I would have said congratulations. I would have bought the book. Like, these are all very bare minimum things that a friend should do, in my opinion. If it's something, and this is maybe where I'm a little bit egocentric, but I feel like if it's something that I would do, then why aren't they doing it? Um, so those thoughts kind of go through my head, but although I can't, my set of expectations, I don't think will ever be completely met. So it's like you're left to just kind of settle with what is. And there's a big part of me that just doesn't want to settle for what is. I just want the warm fuzzies. Like, I don't think that that's asking a lot. Sometimes even quote unquote the bare minimum, if it's giving me fuzzies, then it's doing, the job's getting done. Um, but I'm not getting warm fuzzies from that group chat. And yeah, their version of what is successful is not mine, and I have to accept that. And I've gotten a handful of people over the past couple weeks that have offered, job postings to me or something, fully knowing, or they at least should fully know that I'm going on this hike for 4 months. And if they don't know that I'm going on this hike for 4 months, even though it's been something I've been talking about for a very long time, a true friend should know that I'm going on this hike. If they don't know anything about me, they should know that I'm a hiker. I plan on doing the PCT, and that I'm a Swiftie. There's the three basic things a person who's semi close to me should know. And I say semi because you don't even really need to know me that much to know these things about me. Because I talk about it all the time, unless they're just not listening. And I have found that out recently too, that people will just like a picture without even knowing, wanting to know the context of the picture. And I'm not a person who just goes around and likes pictures. I actually take the time to like figure out what's going on, because I'm curious about what's going on in their life, because that's how you should be with the people you care about. It's like, oh, this is like common sense. I have no idea. um Anyone who's on here, tell me if I'm off base. Because I certainly can't. It gets me a little bit fired up, because truth be told, I'm a little bit still disappointed, but I understand that. I think when I'd like to think that they're treating me a certain way because they're quote unquote concerned about me, and I have given them cause for concern based on things that I've told them. Um, and I get that, but I've also voiced very, very blatantly that I don't want any advice unless I ask. And even one friend that I haven't heard from in a long time hasn't acknowledged that I've even published a book. The first text message that she sends me is a job posting. And I'm like, how tone deaf is that? And it was for a full-time job, knowing I'm doing it, at least should knowing that, I'm doing this hike and everything. And it's just totally imposing her views on me. And a lot of the, I think most of the population, if they know that you're a nurse, would assume that you just want to be a nurse the rest of your life. I think for people who know the real me, know that I've never wanted to be a nurse and that I got into the field because out of like desperation, that I thought I needed to have a career where I could make money. And I wanted something that was rewarding. And I always thought that that could be my writing, that that would be like the rewarding aspect of my life. But I thought, okay, maybe nursing could take the place of that because writing's not a stable job. And, and nursing burnt me out, man. I'm not saying that I'm done with it forever. I might try to do another contract in the winter or but here's the thing, you just got to let Lauren make her own decisions, and if Lauren falls, she falls. You're not going to prevent me from falling. You're not in my heart, you're not in my head. You don't know, these people don't know what it's been like for me in this life. You don't know another person's life until you've walked in their shoes. And I can tell you right now, I've been in chronic pain for the past 3 years. So I don't think they'd want to walk in my shoes. And especially coming back from the hiking trip, like I'm very, and I think they're just probably getting used to the new Lauren, or they don't even care to get to know the new Lauren, because I feel like I'm very content at my core, and I really just like who I am, and I don't feel the need for the, not to say it is I don't need external validation completely, but I don't need their approval of my choices in life because I like who I am, and I had the time of my life. I was having so much fun and I can still have fun. Um, and that's all I want to do is have fun in this life. And I think when after that experience, it's like you're catapulted into like a 75-year-old mindset because you meet a lot of older people. And in nursing, I've met a lot of older people, and you hear things that they say and the wisdom and what's important and what's truly important and what they wish that they could do had, if they were given the opportunity to go back in time. And I'm trying to take their advice. And I feel like, you know, I think a lot of people my age can't understand my point of view because they're at their age. And I feel like I'm in a 75-year-old mindset part of the time. And other times I'm in a 16-year-old mindset. And other times I'm in a 25-year-old mindset. But I'm an anomaly for my age group. Um, I don't know if I'm an anomaly per se. I'd have to look at the statistics. But I'm a free agent out there and I don't own anything. I have very little responsibility. And so I'm able to put my energies into hobbies and things that it make me feel good on the inside. And apparently to my family that makes me self-centered. I don't care. I really don't care, and it's a very good feeling to come to. Um, and that's why it's so important to get yourself out of your normal circumstance, whether that be going to another country, whether that be going to the West Coast or something, to put yourself in a different culture, um, to where you get other perspectives that you're not necessarily hearing from wherever you're from. And I felt like when I was out there, like all the things that I felt like I believed about life, I found a lot of people who shared a similar perspective. Whereas over here, on East Coast mostly, it's the hustle, the bustle, the ambition, the job title, the promotion, the money, the house, the kids, the dog. And then that's what like constitutes success on the East Coast. Over on the West Coast, a Western area is very different. And I feel like I fit in a lot better. Not to say as I can't, fit in anywhere, but it was nice for me to know that what I believe is success wasn't complete trash because I felt like I needed that validation enough to, I needed that external validation to confirm my inner feelings that I wasn't getting from the people that I've been around. And it did a world of good for me. And it was kind of twofold because when I went to Thailand, I also ran into the same thing. Like, Lauren, what you want and what you believe isn't crazy. And I feel like a lot of times people call me crazy for what I believe in. And I just don't feel like I'm that fucking crazy, in in my opinion at least. I think a man should give his woman three things: compliments, money, and spankings when she's bad. I would not disagree. I would not disagree. Sounds like a good triage there. I think, there's a lot more that goes on, but it's a good start. It's a good start. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of went on a tangent, but I also kind of needed to get those things out because that's been weighing on my head. And Doug did a good job of going back and forth with me today on it. And honestly, hearing his insight really helps me. He makes me feel a little less crazy. Whereas if I were to talk to other people, and I think my mom's kind of gotten to a point where you just got to accept Lauren for who she is. You're not going to mold Lauren. If you try to mold Lauren, she's going to do the exact opposite. And I don't know why my friends haven't picked up on this. I was like, you have to be careful about what you tell me because I'm a little bit rebellious and I might just do the exact opposite to prove you wrong, piss you off, you know, or just take what you're saying into consideration. It could go multiple ways with me depending on the delivery. If I feel like it's coming from a place of true empathy or concern or care for me, that's okay. If it's coming from a place where there's ulterior motives involved, which there are with a couple, um, there's ulterior motives involved and you don't actually care for me and you haven't shown a history of caring for me, then I'm really not going to listen to what you have to say. And I've been like keeping those people around for some reason. I was like, why are they even around? I was like, you know what? And I think that's kind of, when comments are made to me that are disrespectful or just mean or negligent, whatever doesn't give me the warm fuzzies. Um, like my tactic now is just to stay completely quiet so they don't have access to the entire me. And maybe that's what they want. Maybe they don't want access to the entire me. Maybe they just want the version that suits them. The and they're missing out. I think that they're missing out, but I think that a lot of people just don't want to invite extra stress into their life. And part of who I am is I'll probably end up inviting some element of stress into another person's life. That's just what happens. I think when you put yourself out there and you're doing all these things, um, there's an element of stress that comes with that. And that's just a part of who I am. And so I feel like people need to accept that. But there's also a beautiful element to that. First of all, you'll probably get some handmade crafts. I don't get handmade crafts from anybody. I was like, shit, put up with a little bit of stress. You're going to get some cute little gifts, at the bare minimum. Um, And then my other tactic, depending on if how much I care about them as a person, I will just lie. And I think that that's probably what I'll try to do more recently. Oh, you should blah, blah. If I hear the word you should or you need to dot dot dot, I'd be like, you're right. Or one of the people was like, "Oh, you should apply for this job." "Oh, I did. I got the job. Thank you so much." And then just do whatever the fuck I want. Just tell them what they want to hear. Do what you want. And that just seems to be a good tactic because what is the other person supposed to say back? And half the time, they don't even know what's going on in my life because they really don't care about the ins and outs of my life. They don't even know where I fucking work. They don't know where I work. Half the time, they don't even know where I'm living or where I'm at. They don't really care. Um, so just lie. But if you support me no matter what, or offer true empathetic concern if there is a valid reason for concern, or you offer real time support, intangible, tangible, then that's okay. But all the rest of this stuff is not okay. And I'm just going to lie. I'm going to lie or I'm going to stay quiet and I'm going to do maybe a smidge of ghosting. I'm going to dip my toes into the waters of ghosting. And it's if you're getting ghosted by me, that's like you've probably shown a long history of mistreatment towards me. And that's the only time I really get to ghosting. Otherwise, if you're putting down everything I say, um, you're just going to get lies out of me. And at this point, I don't care. I don't care. Or yeah, or you're just going to get a lesser version. Isaac. You're just going to get a lesser version. I mean, let's see what you guys think. How do you handle people? Seems like you might be overdue for spanking. You know what? I need to spank people. I think the people in my life are overdue for a spanking, if you had to ask me. But yeah, how do you guys handle friends or family that push their advice on you unsolicited? You're not gonna say? If I get too much done in here, I'm gonna get off. So if nobody interacts with me, because I've said all I can say now. All right. Well, that concludes. Ah! You got nothing to say, Isaac? You got nothing, no weigh-ins. No one's ever given you unsolicited advice. You cannot tell me that. I know someone has. Or maybe this is more so in the girl world. I feel like guys, relationships with other guys, they're probably not pushing their advice on the other dude. I mean, am I correct on that? Is this just in fucking girl world? You're not telling me. God damn. Isaac's a tough cookie to crack. Holy shit. All right, well, I think that, and I know I've maybe done it a couple times, not even knowing, when I was just purely trying to show empathy and it kind of teetered on the edge of advice, but only advice as far as like what I felt like I've learned from my self-actualizing hikes or whatever. Um, and that's it. I don't think I've given advice on anything else. And I don't think that it's the right thing to do. I think that the right thing to do is let someone come to their own conclusions. I'm very much a person that needs to come to their own conclusions. Why would you want to sway someone into what you think is right? And then what happens? They end up taking your advice and they're unhappy. So I wouldn't want to be the cause of a decision that makes them unhappy. They have to figure that out on their own. And your job as a friend is to just be there to support and help pick them up when they fall. And I feel like that's what a true friendship is. Um, Inviting all the parts of a person and their choices in life and How fun is that that we get to be there for other people, um, the best we know how, and show up to shit. And that's why I was very disappointed where I gave people a time. I've given people plenty of times to show up for me. Um, and Yeah, even though I was telling Doug the other day, I was like, for my graduation, I was like, half the people didn't even show. And I was like, I was giving out a lot of free shit at my graduation party. I was providing a nice meal, champagne, cake. I was like, if nothing else, you could have just shown up for the fucking cupcake and left, and I would have been okay with that. But you know what, my friend Kristen, and these are the true friends that I have in my life, she stayed afterwards to help me pick up. And I told her, I was like, I will always remember that. You always remember the people that not just showed up to cameo for you, but the people who actually care about you, the person, and the work that you put into it. And yeah, so ending on a happy note that there are true friends in Lauren's world. And some of my friends, I think four of them ended up buying the book. I only asked for $15. Something I've been talking about my entire life. So I think that